whatever it goes. It's our podcast. It's fine.
Exactly. I mean, luckily we named it the way we did.
Yep. That's a pretty genius idea. Although, you know what? I did get a little annoyed to realize there's a bunch of other YouTube videos and whatnot that starts with two idiots, blah, blah, blah. I think the pandemic
I discovered
brought a lot
this
of
as
that.
well. And I was very... There's a lot of podcasts that are like, two idiots talking about gardening. Or, you know, it's something like that.
Which... Yeah, fuck you to them. They'll be hearing from our lawyers once we could afford one.
in 2042.
Well, folks, welcome to this week's episode of Two Idiots Talking About Art. I am W.E. Naoto and of course with me, as usual, Rodney Thompson.
Hello.
Hello. Oh, well, we have an interesting episode here for all of you today. We'll be talking about controversial art.
Controversy.
So we're gonna just in overall discuss about the idea behind the controversial art and its value towards our society as a whole. At least we hope that's what we accomplish from this. I don't know.
We may not actually accomplish anything. It'll probably just be like 2 hours of Naoto and I going on tangents talking about gardening.
Yeah, if you haven't realized by now, none of this is scripted, you know. We're just gonna throw the ball into the court and see how we play with it. Hoping for the best.
Neither one of us play tennis, so we're kind of screwed.
Oh, that's not true. I used to play tennis back in high school.
I
dabbled in it.
Stay with my joke.
So,
okay.
Controversial art.
Yes. So what? Or you had a way you were doing. I feel like you were just about to start speaking.
Not really.
Please. Oh, okay. Well, I wanted to pose a question. What is controversial art to you?
Okay. So, without pulling the resourceful dictionary up in front, you know,
no Google.
Plain and simply, any piece of art that will stir up a conversation and its core idea so that people could actually, you know, create this platform to discuss more, in my opinion, moral values about us whole as a society. That, in my opinion, is what controversial art is.
Mm.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think so. I feel like it's something that's going to cause a disturbance. Mm-hmm. And there's been so many different variations of how disturbing something is over generations and the history of art. And
sure.
I think that, anything that disrupts the natural flow.
Mm-hmm.
And it could be a minimal disruption, and that could still be controversial. And then there's also the more aggressively controversial things that are thrown out there into the world and meant to piss a few people off.
Yeah.
Which, that in itself plays I think a valuable role in the art world.
Oh, why is that though, you know?
Well, I think it brings up questions, and it makes you reflect a little bit. You know, if we're looking at the same thing over and over again and we really like it, then we get used to it. I think as humans, we thrive on stress, unfortunately, and our bodies react to it. And if we get too comfortable, then we inadvertently either we can get bored or unsettled. And I think if there's something that causes a little bit of change and in an uncomfortable way, then it can promote some growth. And It might propel the art. It might actually give even the viewer a little bit of a reflection where they, maybe they see something in their life that through that is just like they've never been able to see before, They might look at a Damien Hirst piece and be like, you know what? I really just now realized I hate Damien Hirst.
Oh, yeah, Damien Hirst is a part of your list. It's funny. I do too.
Oh, excellent.
We'll be talking about Damien Hirst.
We'll be crossing over. Yeah.
Having a little expert from an article on artnet.com that kind of summarizes controversial art as a whole, in my opinion. Goes as it serves as a reflection of the artist as well as their society, and ultimately leads to a reflection of ourselves. And this was also taken from a New York Times Magazine. Judith Thurman mentioned you owe it to the art to examine the nuisance of your discomfort.
I'm basically a genius.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's
not really. Don't fact check that.
And that's true. I 100% agree with that, But here's the problem with, in my opinion, with modern day controversial art is that there's a split, which is good. That's the first step. But then there's just no grounds of like social sort of civil debate. There's no forum where people are just I shouldn't say there aren't. It's just that usually what you hear the loudest is people just name calling people whether it's leftist, rightist, just
like basically the interwebs,
yeah, correct.
Social media and all that jazz.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
which it's kind of what I think gallery was all about, right? In person, you walk up in there, look at a piece, and you have this place to actually discuss art, and usually come to a point where people are sharing ideas about what the art means, and in there a little bit more civil debate on what they think it is about, and also a place for people to be able to listen to the other side of the coin as well, which is always the case. When you're looking at certain art pieces, like again, like you said, it's a reflection of your own morals as well as your values. But it also gives a chance for you to kind of potentially be able to see what the artist and his or her intentions were. Mm-hmm. And be able to kind of, just have a little mental tug of war behind that. And
yeah, I think that's right. I think I agree totally with the mental tug of war. I mean, that's why I feel like it's, I don't know if I could say like the benefits outweigh the risk or whatever, but if that's totally true, but it feels like in a way, even if it's just really, disturbing and not completely horrifically offensive to somebody, in a hurtful way, then, I think it can, that can have a point of reflection to be like, okay, we know we don't like that, and that's not accepted in society.
Sort of, yeah. Well, that's kind of the other side to it too, right? Like, not, despite what we're saying right now, like not all controversial art is, in my opinion, at least, not great. Like,
no, I agree.
Like you just pointed out, like there are definitely artists that's out there producing certain art just to trigger somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And is that good or bad art? I don't know. I genuinely do not know. All right, let's take it for instance, and I'm sure this is quite a trigger material for a lot of people. Like Trump as the Messiah portrayed behind, like in front of a American flag, or
Oh yeah,
ex-President Trump portrait artworks out there. How's that for like Well, I guess that's different because they truly believe that, don't they? But there's definitely. Yeah. But I don't think there's a middle ground. I don't think there's any, because
I think they believe that, but I also think they're trying to piss people off. I mean, they may not be maybe like fully subconscious of how much they're trying to do that, or
sure,
but they're trying to be in your face about it.
Yeah, for sure. So if the art itself is on full attack mode,
yeah.
does that make it is that a good art in the sense of controversial art? Because I mean, we can't just draw a line being like, well,
yeah,
let's say
I
like
think it's
certain
impossible to draw a line.
Well,
yeah.
Once we start bringing an example, it'll be more clear. But there was definitely art that was just there to stir things up. But now, and if you look at it, it's considered a classic art, a timeless piece of art.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like with that, I don't want to jump a gun, but necessarily, but Fountain by Marcel Duchamp.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, they originally, I think, rejected that, and then that's become a staple in art history classes because
such meaning nowadays.
And it created the found object.
I mean, most contemporary art, I feel like, kind of stems from that.
Yes.
So yeah, it's hard to say. Like at the end, that's kind of also the beauty of controversial art, as well as that whole platform in itself, is that I really don't think there's a way to 100% always say one's right and one's wrong.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Well,
I mean, the Trump ones are wrong.
Unfortunately,
shots fired.
The unfortunate thing about those posters or banners or whatever they are is some of those art, it's actually pretty good. Like, at least the quality of it, I'm like, okay, it's a piece of decent painter. It sucks to see the ideology is so way off from what I think is, considered to be good. It's like
you switch sides,
I'm not changing switching sides. I'm just once you strip, I like to look at art pieces, stripping away the meaning behind a said piece and kind of look at just quality in general.
The quality, yeah,
because there's going to be a bias side if I were to add meanings to it and look at it only at that. Like, I could still be like, man, that artist is a freaking amazing artist. He's such a good painter. He's a total though.
Yeah,
like I'm allowed to say that,
Yeah, that's the controversy there. I mean, you have somebody who could be such a great artist and, paint something that's really, or however they create it, that's just really terrible, that.
Why don't we hold that for a second and let's play a little catch, or what do we call table tennis ping pong rally of examples. And,
why don't we take a look at Damien Hirst?
All right.
And what he has created, and how that's affected the art world. He did a lot. I remember this, like back when we were in school, he had a tour of a lot of his works. Like one came through San Francisco where he
I remember
like would he takes like full animals, like a shark, a cow. I think he had a horse.
Yeah.
Like maybe it was a segmented horse, and suspended in formaldehyde and put those on display. And
actually, I think I remember that.
Yeah. So, and I think he caught a lot of flack for that too.
His famous one is the tiger shark, right? Like
I think so. Yeah. And it's, I mean, they would sell for like tens of thousands of dollars. I think like some of them sold for up like 50,000 pounds. It looks like. So
I can't remember if he's the highest worldwide or if it's UK. But as far as UK goes, he is the highest auction artist that auctioned off any of his works.
Yeah, I think he is the highest in the world. I think he's the richest artist in the world.
Yeah,
basically, like that diamond encrusted skull that he did.
For those not familiar, like called "For the Love of God," rated back in 2007. It was a piece that they made a platinum molding of an actual human skull, took off, put back the actual teeth from the said skull, and encrusted the whole thing in, I think it was roughly 50 million?
It was 86. No, it was like that sold for 50 million. When people put like 8,000, it was like 8,600 diamonds on it.
It's like 1,800 carats worth of gold. Right?
God.
But the actual piece in itself in raw value was something like 15 million. that sold for I think 50 million later on, like a year after he auctioned it or started auctioning it off. Might be slightly off. Let's see.
No, it cost 14 million to produce, and it sold for 50 million. Yeah.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, but I mean,
well, what's the controversy here, in your opinion?
Well, no, mainly, I think the animals and formaldehyde and like how that produced, so like how much that stuff sold for.
Yeah.
I don't know. It doesn't feel a whole lot like creating something. Some of it I found pretty fascinating to see, but also at the same time, it's like, well, I mean, what is it that you're doing?
Sure.
You know? And
so his theme always kind of revolves around death. That's kind of what he was inspired by from the younger days. And yeah, I was trying to...
And like with the skull, though, I mean, I get where he's coming from that, and that one's fascinating. I still cannot believe it sold for like 50 million. That's insane. Or the fact that it cost 14 to produce alone.
Sure.
But he, I guess he was like, he was questioning the morality of art and money, which is so ironic.
Wait, was he questioning the morality behind? I guess that was the whole
piece.
That's what the piece was about, wasn't it? Yeah. Yeah, his net worth right now is something like 340 million or something.
Dang.
Pretty crazy.
But, it could just be jealousy on my part, too.
Well, because, the thing is, it does stir up a lot of controversy for sure when certain pieces are sold, especially modern day art pieces are sold for insane amount of art. That's kind of how it was with NFTs, as we talked about it before.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, like, who are we to judge how much a piece goes for? Somebody put the money down, I mean, his asking price was pretty high to begin with, but I mean, sure, the cost of it was really high. So that kind of makes sense, but I don't know. But I think that kind of drives more the question of, is it art? It's kind of what, going back to Marcel Duchamp and his work, like, what is art? Is this art?
Yeah.
Like,
I do. Yeah, I like that because it brings up the question.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that needed to be really broken down all the way. And I feel like the fountain was the last tipping point of that, where, it really got us fully out of the classical prison.
Sure. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
In a way that we were. I mean, there was so many strict rules about the way you were supposed to be an artist. And I think, like, starting with the Impressionists, they were like, we don't want to really do that. And, they're kind of bleeding off into more and more experimentation and more unique ways of observing. And I think that just built more and more controversy from that point. So
I think the controversy behind it, at least in my opinion, it's not you kind of want to expect that a piece is considered an art by the community as a whole, but it's not the case. It's by evaluators that is art, that is worth this much, reassessed it with certain value to it. And that's more the crazy part to me. Like, I'm not talking just about Hearst and his piece, but overall. Because, I mean, like, always talk about, you see a certain piece of art and it's like, why is that worth freaking $50,000?
Yeah.
You went to the zoo, held up a canvas, waited for that monkey to throw shit at you, caught it with your canvas, and then put it in the extra show.
Nato, don't give away my secrets. God damn it.
It's funny because
never telling you anything again.
As soon as I said that, there was a part of me that went, maybe that's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
I'll do like a Pollock kind of thing, but with shit.
Yeah. That'd be some runny shit. Anyway,
so it's funny because you went there as far as your controversy. I had a different topic about Damien Hirst.
Okay. Do tell.
It's his legal actions and suits that he actually followed through with some other artists for appropriation.
Oh, tell me more. Tell me.
I didn't write down his name. So apparently, Damien sued a street graffiti artist for using the exact same piece we're talking about, "For the Love of God," as part of a collage and posted it. And he basically told him to take all that work down, give him the original copies, C's and CCs, all that, and also hand over the profit that he made through that piece because his work was slightly in there. I couldn't find the actual picture of the work, so I don't know how much of it was actually in there. Because plagiarism is usually what, 80% or more, and it's plagiarized. Is that correct?
That sounds right.
Right. So again, I don't know how it looked, nor how much of it was in there. The funniest part of this was a couple of things. One, he was a 16-year-old kid.
Oh my god! Oh my god!
The profit that he made out of his prints was 200 euros.
Seriously. Wow.
It's funny because
I really hate Damien Hirst now.
Yeah, his grounds was for basically plagiarism or appropriation for his work, right? Which that's another thing kind of want to talk about if you get it some time, appropriation versus plagiarism. But it's weird that it came from him because he has been accused of appropriation from many other artists in the past.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. This also brings out another name, Shepard Fairey.
Oh, do tell.
Everybody's favorite artist back in 2008. When did Obama get elected?
Yeah. 2008? I think it was 08. Yeah.
Yeah, the famed artist that worked on Obama's campaign poster with Hope. He as well tends to sue people for kind of a, I would say revamped version, but inspired. Yeah, he basically claimed that people were stealing his style, which is kind of ironic. Again, one, there's actually a bunch of articles saying that he appropriated other artists' work as well, and
every artist does.
As far as printmaking goes, that style was not necessarily unique. It got famous through that, but there was plenty of artists back in the day doing prints that had similar style.
Yeah, I mean, shit, I was doing classwork with that way of photoshopping that he did with Barack Obama's image. Like, we had color and design stuff that we had to do, portraits that we had to do that were...
Yeah, you take a picture, you go to Photoshop, you rasterize it or whatever. Rasterize it, yeah.
And I mean, it was the exact same way. Yeah. So
sure, there's a slight unique take on his end, sure. But the thing is, like, can you really claim that? That's the weird thing. That's the weird thing. And that's where I think a lot of the public split. I mean, we were so carried away back in the day because of the poster, but, certain legal actions down the road. Actually, apparently he got sued for that because he never got permission to use the photo that he allegedly used for that poster. Like the photographer.
I remember that actually. Yeah.
Actually, I knew Garcia. Hold on. Anywho, he claimed that he never used it, but then as the story went on, he's like, okay, yeah, I did, and apparently, he destroyed the evidence in order to make it look like he didn't. So
can't trust a graffiti artist.
So why am I talking about him per se, as well as Hirst? It's that blurry line of, again, plagiarism and appropriation when it comes to artwork. Because, we constantly try to create original work, but at the same time, we're always going to be inspired by other works.
Yeah, absolutely. I also think it's okay to steal a little bit.
Yeah.
Personally. I mean, if you are not blatantly repeating exactly what somebody else is doing and trying to sell that. I had some guy do that with my work before. And
I've seen people. Like, I've seen people do your take of work with. Your work with their take, like posted on Instagram with the Fire series. How'd you feel about that? Like, do you feel like you have been robbed or?
No, I think that's super flattering. There are people that are trying to like copy my work and study it, and they tag me and they say it's based on my work. So that's wonderful. I'm really grateful for that, honestly, because it feels like my work is getting seen and people are connecting to it on a deeper level, which that's my goal. So I'm really honored that somebody would want to recreate my piece.
Because like if it's conceptual art or conceptual art of some sort, like I understand the idea that you feel like somebody robbed you of your work. Like say like I don't know. What's a good example? All right, the piece right behind me, for those who can't see, I used to and still trying to work on series where I body paint my model in checker patterns because I always adore checker patterns for some reason. I thought it was always a great simplistic design. And yeah, I tried to show emotion through that. So there's a piece right behind me. That's one of my friend, Flory, who is covered in green checker pattern over nude body. And I basically painted that. So if I see an exact match of that, sure, I'll feel robbed. But if somebody's like playing around with the concept that I created and kind of making their own stuff, like I don't see what the issue is. Or for that matter, if it's like illustration of a like portrait illustration or painting, like how could you own that?
That's where I think like copyright and like God, what's it called? I forget all the special terms and stuff that it is, but like the law basically around your intellectual property there.
Right.
I think it's just there's a lot of grayness in there that's hard to.
That's what I'm saying.
It's hard to navigate. Like, so I had in Bend, I had a guy that copied one of my drawings, the one that I did of Brianna that won first place in Drawing Magazine years ago.
Yeah.
So he copied it, and it looked
exact copy.
It was pretty terrible. Sure. And he did it in a First Friday thing, and made it as if it was his own. He got the image from one of my flyers for a class that I was teaching, recreated it in downtown, and I had all sorts of other artists come up to me like, "Hey, this guy was drawing your work. I just wanted to give you a heads up, in case just so you can check it out." And so I hunted and I couldn't figure out where the guy was, who he was, or where the art was. And we just happened to run into one of our friends ran into it hanging in a bar, and he was selling the image. And I was just like, "Nope, you didn't, you made that like that was your own. So you need to at least take it down." So we had to do like a cease and desist thing. And he argued that, like, we had a phone call with him and everything. He argued that full force, and we're like, "You can't, for one, that's my wife's image, and you don't have license to use her, reproduce her image, because that's just mine that I get to do, and it's up to her." And that was the main thing, which I felt pretty strongly about. And the other one was like, he didn't want to give me any credit for anything. And he was like, "But I recreated it from my own hand." And I was like, "No, it doesn't matter. I don't care. Like, you're trying to just say that's all you, and it's completely like it's been published in a national magazine. So it's not. It's not." So.
I think this is a part where Rodney and I may potentially have a slight bit of disagreement.
Go for it. I want to hear.
Well, your example. So you got that, and I also occasionally like to do pop reference art, mainly from like Japanese films or animes or something like that.
Yeah.
I like doing a lot of original design works based off Miyazaki Hayao Ghibli characters, whether it's like Princess Mononoke or Kiki's Delivery Service, stuff like that. At that point, and you see a bunch of fan arts out there around the world. And technically speaking, that is you're infringing on their copyright.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't personally know how I feel about that. If I
Tell me more.
like you said, like if the situation was what you went through, like it's the exact same portrait, exact piece.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Like he didn't do it. I mean, he did it in his style, it wasn't his style. It was my style, but
Sure.
it was his level of ability of being able to draw.
Right.
He did everything to try to copy it exactly and then sell it. And that's one thing I think if you take like a pop image and then recreate it in your style, I think it makes it a little bit different to where you're interpreting it in a different way.
I mean, legally speaking, it's still not okay.
Still not, it's still, a weird area. But like he did even the background shading, he copied. Exactly.
I guess the problem there is that he tried to sell it, right?
That's the problem. That and if he would have reached out to me and been like, hey, I love your work and I recreated this piece. I just wanted to show you. And I thought about just putting it in a show to sell it. I might have had a different idea, but we were in a town of like 70,000 people.
Sure. It's bound to.
And he tried to put up a piece that I had already hung around the town a number of times. And I mean, people can tell the difference between the work easily. But
did he price it higher than yours?
Mine's I've never priced it because I've never put it for sale. Yeah, because it's just one that I was keeping. So
yeah, I guess that would be kind of a weird thing too. Yeah. All right, I see your point. Never mind.
Yeah.
No disagreement here. I'm with you on that one. I was trying to create a rift, but failed.
You failed. We're too good of friends. You can't do
it. Yeah, I guess in practice, yeah, that makes sense. But once you actually do put it out there for sale, and then on top of that, to claim that it's your own, that's kind of shady.
That's where, like, when people are tagging me and they're recreating my work online, they're tagging me and they're saying things like, "This, I just wanted to show you what I was doing." Yeah. I love that. That's awesome. That's super flattering for me, and I really hope a lot more people will feel comfortable doing that. But if they're just like, "Nope, this is mine," then I'll have an issue with it.
What do you think about the works of Sebastian Kruger?
Sebastian Kruger, tell me about that.
He does realistic painting. He's a realistic figure painter, but a lot of his pieces he does characters from movies. Like he's done one with like Tom Cruise from Top Gun. He's done one with he's done like 007. He has workshops back,
like large.
Yeah, he does large realistic. Canvas, realistic, but it's all movie characters too, Like, where's this fit in,
Good point. I can see where he does a lot of caricature sort of ways of working.
I never kind of straying away from like the initial conversation about controversy art, because this is not necessarily a controversial art.
Well, I think this still fits.
But I always wonder, like, where's the boundaries of legal actions when it comes to stuff like that? Like my Dem Crooked Vulture portrait.
Yeah.
I never got their permission to do it. I just love them. And, I wanted myself or somebody to own it. Or I'll just keep it forever. But if I were to sell it, like, I'm using somebody's imagery without their permission and making a profit out of that. That's what I'm talking about. Like, it can't be that if it's done in a small scale, it's okay, but if it's done in a bigger scale, it's, well, I don't know.
Well, I think too, it's like how it's affected. Like the guy that copied my work, I was not a successful artist at all at that point. I had gone back to school and I was trying to get to being a successful artist. I had that one piece that he copied. I mean, it won an award, but it didn't entail like being a successful artist. It was just, I was able to get that.
Right.
I'm not selling thousands and billions of dollars worth of work by any means. And, he's trying to recreate my work to sell as his own.
Right.
Which, I mean, for what work I could find,
It's always about
For
money,
myself,
isn't it?
it takes away that from me.
Yeah, it's always about money, isn't it? Though, like
Yeah.
kind of even bring it back to Damien, and his work. If his skulls cost $500, we wouldn't be making a bigger fuss about it, right?
Yeah, I'd be curious as how he could afford getting away with just selling for $500 those diamonds on it.
It's fake. They're all glass.
Yeah.
All right. Let's move on to the next one. How about talk about Edward Manet?
Oh yes, like luncheon in the park.
Yep. How do you pronounce it exactly? Le déjeuner sur le leb.
I butcher it all the
le
time.
Déjeuner sur le
déjeuner.
Le déjeuner sur le helb.
Le déjeuner.
All right, so this is
Two idiots talking about art.
It's talking about art. So so it's technically a portrait piece, yeah. I mean, he's in it. Isn't he in it? Isn't that supposed to be Manet in there?
Oh, good question.
Was it not?
Is that?
Oh, maybe it was. Maybe I'm thinking of different. Anyways, so you got three figures in a park, having a picnic. You got the two guys fully dressed in their suit and top hat, if I remember correctly.
Not top hat. It's some kind of unique hat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you have the female figure in there, but naked. I guess I could have said that better, but
you know what? I think it works. Just go with it. Butt naked.
So I stirred up a lot of controversy with this. Portrait of a man all in this elegant outfit, while the female figure herself was portrayed in such a manner. Back in, this was 1863, so times were strange. But the fact that it actually still stirred up things back in the day too.
Yeah, and it's funny to think about this too. I mean, that's definitely a unique imagery. Like when you really think about it, like why is there just a woman sitting around naked with a couple of guys? Like what's going on? And then there's one of them bathing in the back. It's like, what's happening here, guys? But it's another way that this was controversial was the way that it was painted, with the extreme contrast of the dark and light.
Oh yeah, that's right.
People threw a fit about that too,
because she was.
Which is one thing I was going to say. It was like the relativity of controversy, like how this was just like horrible as far as controversy goes for the imagery and the style in which it was painted. It was just considered crude for what was expected at that time. Like I was saying, like the classical style.
Yeah. Can you imagine if that painting actually came out now?
I don't think anybody would blink twice, I mean, I think they would probably think it was beautiful, but they would also be like, the way things are now, they wouldn't even think twice about it.
I'm kind of curious to see what would happen if you were to take any of those classical paintings, the theme in its own, and kind of modernize it, but with the same message or like triggering imagery still attached to it,
Yeah. I would say like place what would be considered more triggering now versus then.
Yeah. Well, right now, oof.
Like, yeah,
everything.
I mean, yeah,
anything. That is kind of scary thing. We did talk about like the potential that artists are kind of from getting canceled from the cancel culture itself.
Like we're
immune to it, not necessarily, but you don't really hear about painters and artists.
It can only help us too in a lot of ways.
That is very true.
I think it goes into that. There's no such thing as bad publicity kind of situation.
But then again, there were examples which we shall not name names. No.
Well, now I'm curious. Wait, I might be lost.
There's been a few people that Anyways.
What the hell was that?
That was my discreet shout out. Anyways, moving on.
Anywho,
so positive controversy, which does exist, which people use it for good reasons. I would say I always forget how to exactly pronounce it. Masterpiece by Pablo Picasso. Is that Guernica? Guernica. It is Guernica. All right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's always kind of been the symbol for anti-war.
Yeah. Like after what was the name of the village that was bombed?
Basque Village.
Basque Village, yeah.
It's in 1937.
That was an incredibly powerful piece, and it's probably my favorite Picasso piece because
it was mine too.
It is just like it's just black and white, and it's just very clearly, it's just to the point of like how awful that was. And that whole incident was. And I think it's just a powerful anti-war piece. And
I remember seeing it in person. I don't recall where. It's huge.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I've heard it's massive. And he did it just like in a matter of, was it like the days?
Was it? Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think he did it really fast. I mean, it may have been like a couple of weeks, or maybe I know it was a very short time frame. Like he did it.
He did use grayscale entirely, so
yeah.
But still,
which I mean, that just added to the intensity of it. I think
there was a controversy in this per se.
I think good question. I know he like refused to have it on display for a while. Until like in Spain.
Yeah, he didn't want it up in the museums in Spain.
Yeah.
I guess the other controversy actually was back in when the Vietnam War was going on. There's people petitioning for it to be taken out of MoMA.
Yeah.
Because what is it? Which is kind of weird to think. I thought it was pro anti-war, so felt like you wanted that displayed.
Yeah,
because it wasn't. People were petitioning against the war that wanted to take it down. So I was a little confused about that. They thought, I don't know. So many questions I have for people.
That's a good. Back in the day. I wonder why I should have dug into that a little bit more. That's a really great people in the world out there. Let us know if you have knowledge on this.
You thought, topic. Yeah, as usual, you didn't come here to learn stuff. You came here to teach us.
Yes.
Your turn. What's another one you got, for example?
Well, I was just thinking you were talking about when we were talking about luncheon at a park. The one that popped up was, and this one's funny to me now, and I know that it was much different back in the day. Was Madam X by John Singer Sargent.
Ooh.
It's his most famous painting, and he did it for a salon. And it was when they first saw it, the way she was standing, her strap of her dress was originally painted hanging off of her shoulder, and then that just was the worst thing you could do.
Slut! Like people yelled.
Yeah.
Is that what it was?
Like they hated it. And because of that, they thought that was horrendous that it was painted that way. So he actually went back and painted over it and repainted the strap up onto her shoulder and corrected it. There's like one, I think there's like a black and white photo of it where the strap is still down that he had captured.
I'm surprised. And I'm surprised that he would go and fix it.
You know what? It's not totally surprising to me. He was a commissioned artist, and I think
there's one.
A lot of times when you really get into that commission work, you have to make a client happy. So
yeah,
if they're not happy, then it's gonna not bode well for that commission or future commission. So that was such a big deal, and it was just an arm strap. Like that just seemed vulgar and inappropriate. So he changed it. And
so back in 1883.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. And I mean, that goes, so I wanted to do kind of a bridge of things. So we'll go to look at that as being very controversial, so much so that the artist chose to correct it. Okay, so going to like comparing to something more recent, modern times. This is in 1987, so not super recent, but more recent than that. Sure. It was a photo by Andres Serrano called Piss Christ.
Oh yeah.
And where he took a photo of a crucifix with Christ on it. But it was in a jar of his own piss.
Yeah.
And I mean, he's been a successful artist, and he's done many things like this, and he's used all sorts of bodily fluids, including blood and milk and semen, and he's definitely experimenting with some different techniques, and I think this one really pissed a lot of people off because he was a recipient of a National Endowment of the Arts grant right before he created this.
During his
so he got
getting that taxpayers' money.
He got death threats, and all sorts of, like, senators were complaining that was like a waste of money and they shouldn't have used it on him. And like,
do you know the whole story about that? I don't.
I was trying to look up, and I couldn't quite find what it was about that. What his reasoning for creating it.
Here's where we kind of go all the way back around of art that is created in with the idea of presenting some sort of a meaning behind it, or is it really just there to stir things up? I personally think it's the latter. And at that point, it's like, what's the benefit of this conversation that would come across like, well, hold on, it's an art because I can't quite think of the narrative to make it sound positive. Because, like I said, like in a sense, controversial art should build a platform for people to be able to discuss, whether it's civil rights movements or whether it's some political things or gender equality or whatever, Whenever there's an issue that is somewhat split, that it's a great ground for people to kind of discuss things. I think that's what good controversial art should do. Not always the case. Like, as much as I do like this piece, I'm not saying I don't like it.
Yeah.
But one must ask, like, why did he do this? What's the point of it? If he's using blood and sperm, why would you do that?
Yeah. So I think there's a couple of reasons maybe behind it, because it seems like he kept it pretty ambiguous as far as what the meaning behind it was. And I think that's a purposeful way of creating a little bit of chaos behind it.
Sure.
Where you can put
a little bit of chaos.
Yeah. You could put two bodies against each other, people who are completely offended by the use of Christian imagery, and then the people who are for the experimentation of art, but also could give two shits about, the Christian imagery, and creating some clash, and that also creating conversation, also creating reflection from both parties. I think that would, you don't have to really look at what that's stirring up and why it stirs it up in the first place. And anyway, also he had kind of over the years, I think, kind of alluded to the over commercialization of Christian iconography.
Sure.
And that makes sense as well. Like, it's, this beautiful imagery that's always shown, unless it's Catholic, and then it just shows a dead bloody Christ on a cross. And
you think it's like the statement itself is, the modern Catholic Christianity and whatnot. They're basically dipping their symbol that's been passed on for century is just now soaked in their own piss. Like, they're pissing on their own symbolism, kind of thing.
Yeah, something like that, I think, is kind of the idea. Like, it's just being cheapened. And
which I'm kind of curious. Do you know his religious background?
It says he's Christian. He's a lifelong Christian. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he says he didn't intend to create any kind of blasphemous art, but
bullshit.
Yeah. Yeah.
I call that bullshit.
every piece that we create, there's a bit of us in there. So, this might be him questioning his faith in some way, or, or him looking at his life as a Christian.
Yeah, but
and what it means. It could be extremely personal, and he's just that could be the ambiguity in it, where he's like, I'm not going to tell you how I'm feeling or
I can't imagine that
my own experience.
I can't imagine that anybody like in his situation make that piece and wonder like, I wonder how the audience is going to react to this one. Maybe it's a mixed review, overly positive, perhaps. Like, I mean,
no, I'm sure he was like, this is going to really piss some people off.
Yeah, maybe you're right. Like, maybe his intentions weren't necessarily a bad one at that, but I won't believe it if somebody tells me like, well, he had no clue how this was going to turn out.
Yeah, I'm not. Some people also have like that self-righteous sort of way of doing things. Not saying that he did it all, but we're like, you know what, this is going to make people upset, but it's something that I need to say, so I'm just going to say it. So
yeah, but I guess that's the thing, huh? Like right now, I'm thinking like once you mention his name, I'm thinking like, well, what's the point of using fecal matters or your urine or your freaking ejaculation or whatnot, something consider gross if it's just out in the public as a form of art? Like, what's the point of that? Like, why those specific things? But I guess that's the kind of the core of it, huh?
Yeah.
Through the controversial art in itself, like we're talking about it, it's making me think why that is the thing that he chose to do, and what's the idea behind that.
I think so much of it is it makes you uncomfortable, and you have to think about it. Like you're forced to think about it.
Why does it make you uncomfortable, right?
Why does it make you uncomfortable?
Yeah.
Like people, I'm sure not everybody. I'm sure people just got pissed to be pissed, and didn't reflect on why they were upset. They were just mad because you did something that they didn't like. Instead of thinking, well, why does this make me mad? Like, why, what was the reasoning? Like trying to figure out, okay, why'd you do that?
Right.
It upset me, but I want to know why you did that before I make a full conclusion.
If I were to go to a museum and all of a sudden there's a stench coming from the corner, like around a corner into this one particular part of the exhibition, I found out that somebody's been painting with poop. I'll be pretty frustrated because then I'm forced to smell poop. I didn't want to smell poop. It was not part of my agenda of the day when I decided to go see art in the museum.
You know what? I'd probably be on board with you with that one.
I mean,
I'd also be like, is everybody washing their hands?
Can you paint with concentrated fart? Can you pressurize fart and somehow magically distill into like
turning it into a liquid from a gas?
And
I feel like we'd have to have some like mad chemist to be like, I need you to make a liquid out of this.
Like I'm
going to put pigment in it, and then I'm going to paint with it.
A year supply of fart to paint one canvas.
Yeah, it'd be like a methane painting.
If I see an artwork that's using fart out there, I will immediately be contacting that artist. It was like, I know you listen to our podcast. You son
of a bitch. You stole our ideas. You probably got that from monkey poop in the zoo.
Yeah. We have so many great ideas. Actually, no, I don't care. I don't have the guts to do those kind of controversial art. So like whoever's listening that finds it as a great idea, go with it. Just mention that, you got the idea from me, and again, that's all I want.
Yeah. Yeah, just like say you got it from us. That's it.
I don't know if that would be a great thing. Like somebody mentioning my name as a, the idea actually was an original. I got it from W.E. Skoric. Yeah, he came up with the idea of painting with monkey feces. What a great visionary that guy is.
He's truly a genius.
Yeah. Then next thing you know, people are going to be calling me like, my son started painting with like his morning poop every single day, and now our house stinks like shit. It's all because of you. And you're stupid.
I don't know how they got your number.
Oh, I publicly announced it anywhere.
Okay, all right, that makes sense.
My number is 4. I'm gonna bleep that out.
You're saying I get a series of bleeps too. It's like my number is beep 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 beep. Yeah. So other examples I thought we could tap into were kind of in the vein of Guernica, where it becomes a little more political. And thinking about more recent is over the pandemic.
Yeah.
And you can have all of the art related to COVID, but also all of the art related to the BLM movement that was happening through all of the awful events that were happening at that time. And see how you can really see in the division when people when any work that I've posted and I would get amazing comments and I got a few shitty comments, and just really terrible things that were said. Have you? Also, I mean, but it's again, it's making people uncomfortable. It's a topic that makes people uncomfortable.
You did the Black Lives Matter portraits. You got crappy comments from shitty people out there.
I've had one guy who got on there. It's like you're part of the problem and blah 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 blah. And I was like, I just deleted the comment. What the hell? But I got a few like that. I got messages here and there that were if I posted on my stories and stuff, people would respond to it and you're part of the problem. That was one of the main things. You're part of the problem.
It's funny because when I brought that question up or asking about how it affected Monica Ikegu's pieces on her interview, I was trying to remember examples or reference of where I heard that from. It was you.
It was me. Yeah. Yeah. Because I mean, and I know I didn't have my platform wasn't as big as it is now.
Sure.
With how many people are following me. So I mean, I lost a number of followers through that process, and which is fine. I mean, you weed them out. If they don't like that, then they don't need to, follow me. But anyway, I think I was on the lower end probably of creating controversial stuff. I mean, there were people putting up murals all over the place.
Yeah.
Doing stuff out in the city and streets were being painted with Black Lives Matter on them. Mm-hmm. And that pissed people off enough to where there was that one couple, I think it was in, God, where was that? Was that in DC? I can't remember what town it was, but they went over with black paint trying to cover up a big yellow lettering of Black Lives Matter.
I can't remember what
city that was in. But,
yeah, what city was that? It was it was a single lady, right?
It was a man and her wife.
Oh, that's what I was.
Or a man and his wife. And they were just yelling at people while they were angrily painting black paint on the street, trying to cover that up. See, and they got arrested too, I think. But anyway, it's so. I think that's where art has played such a big role in the last couple of years with how showing this division that's in the country. I think it's been there the whole time, but I don't think it's been as pronounced as it is right now. Mm-hmm. I think it's just kind of everybody's gone to their corner. It's like pick a side, and I think now it's if you don't have a side, there's something probably wrong with you on that one, because I mean everything is feeling so clear for one set of people and so clear for another set of people and all of that stuff. But going back to it, I think art has really played such a role in that, and all of these murals that were made of George Floyd and all the artwork that you and I created, we would have been drawing people who were killed by cops.
Yeah.
For any reason except for the fact that it was happening a lot, and we were trying to
raise
just bring some awareness around it. Yeah. So, and that I think really makes people uncomfortable, and I don't think we would even have to say anything really. We could just have the imagery of it, and that would make people uncomfortable. One of the comments I got was, I didn't say hardly anything on a piece, and
you just posted it.
I just got a shitty comment.
Yeah.
And
the problem I see, especially I was talking about earlier about our current society as a whole, is with these controversial arts, again, like ideally the idea is to kind of like split up into different opinions, how, one will get one would agree with it, or one will feel uncomfortable with the piece, but then eventually be able to somehow find like I wouldn't say completely agree, but at least an understanding,
some kind of middle ground. Yeah,
you know.
And I don't feel like that's happening.
So it's like controversial art in itself nowadays. It almost feels like it's just creating rifts.
Yeah,
not always, obviously, but like bigger issues such as especially with civil rights movements and all that stuff seems to be the case. Actually, that was a great segue into one of the other example I had that I want to talk to, which is the ongoing, I'm assuming it's still ongoing, or maybe it's ceased, toppling of monuments all across the world since the George Floyd incident.
Oh yeah, like all of the the Southern, the Confederate monuments and stuff like that, and like King Leopold and all of that stuff in Europe.
Yeah, in the States, usually it's related to any characters or symbolism afflicted with Confederacy, anything that affiliates itself with slave trade, genocides, etc. The funny, not funny, the interesting about the whole thing was that I wasn't aware how many statues were being toppled down all across the globe. I thought it was like roughly, I don't know, 30, 40? Maybe.
How many?
That was like over 100.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I know.
It was a lot.
I was amazed to see how it had gone all over the world, too. Like that huge one. I don't remember where the statue was of King Leopold, where, he's was said to have killed or been responsible for the death of, I think, hundreds of thousands or millions of Africans. And
but here's the thing that I'm kind of curious about talking with you.
This is where our friendship.
Well, no, it's kind of what we're talking about earlier, where to draw the line. Like, morally speaking, I know where I stand, and I know it's hard for me to not be biased at these movements that happens, whether it's chalkworks or graffitis across town, or Black Lives Matter, portraits of George Floyd, or like statues being toppled down that is associated with, I would say, historically criminal act of the past. But that's all my opinion. If you kind of take that meaning away, it's vandalism, isn't it?
Yes, I guess in a technical sense.
Yeah,
but
in a technical sense. And that's,
a lot of these statues too are being
the city is taking it down, removed. But there's definitely several where protesters just basically knocked it down.
Yeah.
Right. So
I mean, but you can also see that about when they took all the Lenin and Stalin statues down. And,
apparently,
I guess that was vandalism too.
Yeah.
Or the golden or the big Third Reich eagle when they took that down. After the war.
Well, because is it okay just because the movement that happens I agree with, where it to kind of take place, but not the other side of the coin? For instance, the husband and wife that were painting over the BLM movements. Whatever their belief is and whatever reason it was that they did, I'm sure they have a complete justification on their end. And we could say that they did it out of, their racist mentality of things. They just don't agree with it. Or they have a legit reason on their own that has nothing to do with it. I don't know. I'm not a psychologist. I could put words into their mouth, but that doesn't mean shit. Just because somebody doesn't support an idea doesn't necessarily mean they're against it either.
I feel like that was pretty clear, cut and dry that they were against it.
Well, maybe they're a bad example. Well, they're shitty people. I don't know their background story, but you see what I'm talking about? I mean, history-wise, there's always two sides to the story. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're not here to talk about politics, so that's going to be the last of the politics I'll be talking about in that aspect of it.
Yeah, I think we probably move it along.
Yeah. Next thing I would like to kind of talk about, because we're talking about, toppling monuments, which in a sense, I wouldn't necessarily go as far as rewriting history per se, but we're kind of choosing what to display for our past, yeah?
Yeah, display for sure.
Sure.
Like that's what I was saying earlier. Like I think monuments are built to celebrate someone. Like they're named like after people to celebrate them. So if we're celebrating, somebody who actually had a negative impact on a lot of people and like more than most, then that seems weird.
This is a controversy that topic that came out, I think 2020 or 2021, which I kind of wanted to hear your opinion about this. So Yale University, back in 2020, decided to eliminate one of its popular art courses, Introduction to Art History, Renaissance to the Present. Pretty much art class. I would say there apparently was one of the most popular classes, talking obviously art from Renaissance period to the current modern day. It was considering to eliminate, or it did get eliminated as an approach for a broader overhaul to reconsider how it might tell a fuller story of art in the wake of complaints that the class promotes an overly white, westernized canon at the expense of other narratives.
Oh, okay. Well, I think I vaguely remember hearing about this.
This is very interesting.
And I don't know about getting rid of the class. You can easily bring in other cultures.
Yeah, they basically kind of.
If they did keep it kind of whitewashed, that really sucks and is unfortunate. But
which is kind of true if you think about it. Or I kind of thought about those days back in taking art history classes. So oh yeah, it was quite predominantly.
Yeah, I think even arts were a little bit more heavily.
Which is
white.
Interesting because there are forms of art all across the world that just never got spoken about, at least not in those kind of classes. And they even mentioned, the professors mentioned that there's no way you could really cram a whole narrative from all across the world in just one quick semester of it. But
that's true. Break it down. There's. I feel like there's ways to adjust that and not just eliminate it. Like keep a course that's similar to that, talking about Renaissance classical art. Keep a course that talks about African art, and then a course that talks about Asian art. And
yeah, well, I agree that it should be taught as a single course. That it should be But so I guess the controversy was one side is saying obviously they wanted to promote more worldwide view of the art as a whole, and then the other side would be. I mean, this is not verbatim or anything. I couldn't really find this is what my interpretation of it is, that people think they're rewriting history because you're basically kind of messing with the course in itself of what people had for long academic years learned the way it was, and then kind of reforming it to something else.
Oh my god! Yeah, that seems dumb. Like that they're rewriting history. Like it's this. If they're not incorporating.
Yeah, I said they're not nitpicking. I took it as they were incorporating, right?
Yeah. Okay.
But it seems like no. Like I'm agreeing with you. Like they're incorporating more things. To give more a world view.
I think that's important. I mean, that's how we learn. Like if you look at Picasso's work, his stuff was heavily influenced by African art, and I think it's important to know other cultures, other experiences, and not just think ours is superior, because that's obviously not been successful. And we've trampled over other civilizations for sure, as far as white people go. So I just don't. I was going somewhere with that. I just don't think that it.
Well, it's kind of the same thing. I think the response was similar to certain states kind of rewriting history textbooks for elementary or middle school or whatnot. I think Florida had their own. Texas definitely has their own.
Yeah.
Like the same response to
once you
that,
start
like
making it more white, then that's an
but
issue.
then it goes the same way backwards too. To like, oh, you're like making us look bad. You're like blah blah blah. Like, well, I mean,
history is history.
Which,
I don't think it's history doesn't have an opinion. It's
no,
just what it is. Yeah.
None of those science, history, none of those have opinions. There shouldn't be a biased opinion. Where, well, history gets a little tricky, doesn't it?
As far as opinion,
well, every country sees events, like world affairs in a slightly different ways. Japan, I'm sure, has its own way. What happened in Pearl Harbor? Than America.
Yeah,
China
good point.
has their thing against South Korea, and yada yada.
Everybody's got their narrative. I mean, we have that in our own country now. It's like I was saying with the division and stuff. Like everybody's got their own idea of what's actually happening.
Yeah, but that's probably the similar thing that happened as far as the narratives or the conversation that took place when this event at Yale University happened. I would assume.
Wait, would say that again? When the what happened?
When the the course was changed or reintroduced.
When it was removed? Yeah. I think it's definitely what seemed to happen. Like it showed more of that division.
Well, because I think some people are claiming that it was the PC police taking over. Because it's too white. I'm like
that just seems like such a fragile sensitivity. I feel like it's just. It's like why is it bad to incorporate other cultures? Like why is that offensive to you?
I don't know.
That's my question, not to you, obviously, but
I get that.
The people who are afraid of that.
What is it? Makes you think.
Truly controversial art.
All right.
Two idiots talking about art.
I got two idiots talking about art. I got one more example. That's not political at all. Yay, we're out of the things that we don't even want to talk about. I don't know why I incorporated that into my examples, because that is definitely not something I wanted to talk about. It's definitely not something anybody wanted to listen to. So I apologize for that.
Wait, the Yale one?
Yeah, anything that had to do with politics.
No, I think that's important. I think that's controversial art. Okay. That deals with it. So I mean, yeah, I'm glad you brought it up.
Good. So let's see. Back in 2020, AAMD, or Association of the Art Museum Directors, loosened a certain guideline to all the museums during the pandemic times, specifically to deaccessioning. I can never see that word. Deaccessioning. There you go. So the act of selling artworks, from a museum.
Wait, so what are they doing?
So between 2020 and 2020, or prior to that, museums are allowed to sell their collections of art under the guidelines of the profit from the piece being sold could only go into the fund of purchasing another piece.
Okay.
Right. That's the major guideline for a museum auctioning off any kind of art pieces. It's usually to, diversify their pieces and just, maybe they have too much pieces in the back, but it's only to reestablish new artworks for the museum. In 2020, during the pandemic, when obviously sales for museum goers were drying up, they basically gave the green light for museums to sell said collections or more variety of purposes, whether it's to pay off for the workers, to fix up, say, the museum in itself, the ways to be able to spend the money kind of opened up. And I guess the controversy right there was that people thought this was going to cause a lot of artworks to go into the hands of private collectors. And, that's a no-no.
Yeah.
It ended just this year, April. So that's over with from what it seems like. It's just kind of interesting because I bring this up because there's a bit of misinformation. It seemed like, the initial stir up, very small one, I would assume, because most people didn't know, including myself. Was that, these artworks that were hang up in public space in a museum was going to no longer be the case because of these accessibility of sales that the museum are going to start selling off. As a matter of fact, several sales got canceled because of such backlash a lot of the museum got. The funny thing is that the majority of the art sales through auction didn't quite differ from the years prior because they still sell pieces regardless of the new guidelines. So there was a certain misunderstanding happening that created this stir up.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of fear around that.
Yeah,
stirred it up. Like what could be, and like the potential hazard of having that accessibility, I guess.
Why am I talking about this? It's easy.
I don't know.
I thought it was a great way to kind of talk about, controversy stuff out there currently with everybody not exactly always like encapsulating the full story behind it, the full understanding of a subject, and just kind of riding the rage train to get mad about something, to make a stir about something. Because here's the thing, I don't know if people will agree with this, with me on this one, but I'd say, post on social media and whatnot individually, I would consider them, depending on what it is, but sort of an artwork of its own.
Like the actual posting process, or like
whether it's memes or whatnot.
Okay. I see. I think.
And in that sense, I feel like they kind of fit the category of controversial art. And am I stretching this one a little too thin? I feel like I'm stretching this one a little.
I want to hear where you're going. Keep going. Keep continue, please.
All right. Here, Rodney-san, explain to the audience what you had for breakfast while I kind of clear my thought for a second. All right.
So this morning I had black cherry Greek yogurt with a banana. I also
sounds good.
Ate some emotional quesadilla that
20 minutes later.
In the microwave that I made this. I didn't make it in a good way. I needed it in that moment.
This backfired.
Yeah, sorry.
I can only hear you in my thought. Never mind. I think I was going somewhere without a deeper thought. I was just hoping that it will land somewhere. I had some kind of a idea earlier on. I can't quite remember what it was. It had something to do with social media posts, but I'm confusing myself with this one.
Two idiots talking about art.
Right, is that? Any other example you would like to share?
I don't think so. I mean, I feel like we covered the ground pretty well. I mean, there's so many different types of controversial art out there. It's hard to like. We could be on here for 5 hours easily and barely still tap.
Well, why don't we summarize what we learned from this conversation?
I think controversial art has a very specific role in society, and I think it can force thought because of the discomfort that it causes. Like it can force us to reflect, or it can force us to shut down. I mean, there's going to be a reaction. I'll say that it forces a reaction. Mm-hmm. You can either have a really offended, disgusted reaction to it and think, okay, why did that offend me? Or you can have that reaction and close off the reasoning behind it and just say, that's wrong. I don't like it. Mm-hmm. On the other end of that, you can have a very positive reaction and be like, wow, that's very empowering. And it's going to piss a lot of people off. And I think it's good that was made, You can say that and still not have like a thought about why they might have created it and like really learn about it and mm-hmm. gain more insight on it. So, and understand why you yourself would have that reaction to it. I just think all in all, it gives us an opportunity to learn and grow and to reflect, as long as we are willing to take that opportunity.
Ooh. Before I mention my summarization of what we learned today, I have a question for you.
Shoot.
I think this kind of applies to the entirety of controversial art, which is kind of the end game for all this stuff. Should art be banned? Like certain certain types of art, should it be allowed to be banned? Because we just discussed about, the toppling of monuments and all that. And then if we're looking back, if you look at other things, and we're not talking about painting at this point, but if we're referring to, say, text novels, fictional novels that gets banned from school,
right,
because of some wacky mom thought there was too much, I don't know, pornography, porno in it. I don't know what the reasons were, but they thought it was not suited for kids. I mean, that's still a form of art, literature, So should it be?
I could say that it could be in some ways. So maybe they don't want to have. I'll use Hitler as an example.
Sure.
Maybe they don't want to have Mein Kampf as a required reading in school.
Sure.
That might not be good. If there's a portrait of him that some artist did, I'm sure it was not done in a negative way. If it was in Germany at the time, it probably was to depict him as a regal subject.
Right.
I don't think that should be hanging around to celebrate him. In my personal opinion, I feel like we could have it in a book and learn about it, but to put it on display somewhere, I feel like just to celebrate somebody who committed mass genocide, that seems not good.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Those are my more like definitely on the extreme end examples, and then I think, of course, like anything in life, there's a lot of gray area in that.
I'm 100% with you, and I can't agree more. I mean, my philosophy behind a lot of my actions are usually, does it hurt somebody? Nope. Go ahead. Do whatever you want.
No, I think that's great.
If there's harm intention behind it in whatever way, then maybe there's a moment you should take a step back and rethink about that action. Exactly. It can't be all you. We live in a society. That's kind of the idea.
I think you can challenge people.
For sure.
I think that's a wonderful thing, to challenge people, to challenge thought.
But if there's one thing
and preconceived notions and things,
if there's anything at all for that matter that our audience picks up on or learns from this episode today, I hope it's that, think about that question. Like, is certain thing allowed to be banned? I'm not saying that you shouldn't think that something should be. Like, there's plenty of things I personally believe that should just be taken off because I don't think it belongs there. Whether things I agree with, the toppling of the monuments, or if somebody's just raising a swastika flag for no reason from their window, like shit like that. No, but it's important to take a brief moment to kind of consider that.
Yeah.
There's, again, always two sides to it. My friend does get pissed off at me for this because I'm always trying to find a neutral ground. And I don't tend to get too mad about other people's action.
You are
which is not true.
A good devil's advocate, I think. Looks like looking.
Before going straight to the conclusion, take a step back and kind of reevaluate the situation. Because, your thought is not always necessarily right either. There will be a time, I'm sure. Anywho, so to summarize the importance, the value that controversial art proposes to our society, in my opinion, is pretty much exactly what you said. But again, as I was saying earlier, the thing is, maybe it never was. I might just be extremely naive about the thought that the platform could be raised with a certain civil discussion. Doesn't have to divide up so much to the point that there's nothing but just anger and hate towards the other party.
I think that's inevitable sometimes.
Maybe it's always been like that. I don't know.
Yeah, I think there is absolutely opportunity for middle ground discussions that I think a lot of people are open to that, and it doesn't matter what side or what kind of side it is that they're on.
Mm.
You know, I think there's a lot of people that are open to learning about that, and they can learn a lot through that. And there's somebody, I'll bring up one more example of a controversial artist, is a political artist, comic artist named, he goes by Mr. Fish. And he does a lot of
fish drawings.
No, not fish drawings. He does like a lot of political cartoons.
Okay.
Illustrations, and his are very much like on the left side, and
sure.
But he is also very in the middle of critiquing everybody that has a role of power. Like, he will pick you apart either way. And I saw a documentary where he was actually there to talk about his work.
Okay.
And like in person, it was a documentary about him, and then he was in there to answer questions after. And he mentioned like he's posted work and then had people write him and say really awful things to him, and he'll just try to start a conversation with them and say like try to help them understand where he's coming from, and also find a middle ground with them. And which I was very impressed by that with him when he was describing how he did that. He said there's a few people that he's continuing to talk to like over several month period or something like that, and that originally contacted him with like some hateful email. And he just managed to find a bridge of communication with them.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So in that regard, I think you are right in some ways, and I think also in another way that I think division just happens sometimes, and I think it's inevitable, and I think that it's hard to get around it.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. It's easy to make snarky comments at other people, and it's easy to say like haters be haters kind of thing. But I wish there's again, controversial art, in my opinion, it's definitely a key. It's weird coming from me because I don't necessarily place a meaning behind my work, especially not in a political sense. Definitely not. But I do agree that those are important. We do need to keep talking if things are gonna get better. We just can't be passive aggressive as a society and hope that things will work out. No, we need to discuss through the works of art.
Yeah,
for sure. Speaking of which, if you're an artist like myself who just kind of paints and whatnot, things that you think either looks beautiful or cool or whatnot, whatever reason behind it, that's okay. Your piece does not have to be the central conversation about what's wrong with our society. That's okay.
Yeah, I think that's good. I think not having your work have a conversation or create a conversation is completely awesome in itself. Because it creates a different kind of conversation, not maybe controversial, but it might build a connection between people with talking about how the artist created the piece. I think that's a beautiful thing.
Well, the one thing that the final piece of information I'd like to share with the audience, kind of another summarization of it all. Next time you come across any kind of art piece, whether it's online, on your cell phone, or you're actually at a gallery, and if you come across a painting that is obviously disgusting other people, take a look at it, think about it from both sides or all sides. Look deep into it. If there's a piece that actually bothers you, don't just go, ugh, freaking shitty artist, thumbs down if I can. Like, don't do that. Take a second. Think about what of the piece itself bothers you. Why does it bother you? And what are the intentions? Like, give it a thought. What are the intentions of the artist? Just give it more than just a brief wipe to the left kind of thing of, disapproving something. I think, it'll help you as a person to, take a brief moment to give it a quick thought, or more than a quick thought. A minute. Give yourself a minute. Longer if you can. Think about it over the weekend. I don't know. Whatever appropriate time.
At least 15 minutes.
At least 15 minutes.
15 minutes to 2 days.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then if you still don't agree with the piece, then go to the social media platform and send that artist hate mail. I don't know. If you really want to do that.
This is advice from Rodney and Naoto. 2 idiots talking about art.
No, don't do that.
Don't do what we say.
Ask them questions, Ask them in person. That's a great thing about our society right now. You could literally contact any artist, at least give it an attempt to it.
Asking questions. I think that's wonderful. Yeah. Say, why did you do that? Why did you create that? Be curious.
Yeah. Why the hell did you put Jesus in a jar of urine? What were you thinking? And he might explain his side, and by the end of it, you might be like, oh my God.
You're like, I'm going to go start peeing on Jesus all the time.
Yeah, every single time. As a form of my appreciation, I'll be urinating all over that cross. Even though it'll be like hung on the wall, like all the way up to the top, I'll give myself a step ladder and just make this happen.
I don't know where this conversation has gone, but here we are. You guys listen to it, so it's your fault.
Are we pro advocates for people publicly urinating on things? Specifically, I just feel like religious symbols?
Pro dipshit.
Yeah, that about sums it up. Yeah. For sure. Okay, well, we're gonna go now and think about what just happened, what we talked about.
I don't know what just happened.
What we did to you guys, what we did to ourselves. And yeah, truthfully, just kind of sink all that information in, and I don't know, just kind of think about it.
Yeah, think
about it.
Share your thoughts.
Hopefully,
come yell at us on social media. We're used to it now.
Yes, please. Shoot us a message.
Yeah,
how we have wasted roughly 2 hours of your time that you can never get back.
Yep, it's gone forever. And if you want to waste a few more minutes of your life, you can find us on Instagram at 2 Idiots Talking About It. Or it's 2 Idiots and Art.
We welcome all messages.
Yes, please.
Good and bad and the horribles. Well, that'll be it for this particular episode of 2 Idiots Talking About Art. And hope you haven't given up hope on us, and we'll tune in on our next episode.
I don't feel like that's likely, but yes, hopefully you don't leave us for good.
Yep. Well, until then, hope you have a great one. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Don't go. Come back.
They're making art. They're talking art. One of them's going down.
Now it's on. I have a great idea.
Oh, what is it?
The other asked.
Let's do a podcast.
And so it begun.